Self-discovery and identity. Solitude helps individuals understand who they truly are without external influences, leading to clarity, self-awareness, and purpose. Mental and emotional strength. Being alone builds resilience, self-sufficiency, and the ability to rely on oneself, making individuals emotionally strong and independent. Unmatched focus and creativity. Solitude eliminates distractions, allowing for deep thinking, creative breakthroughs, and increased productivity in personal and professional life. Freedom from social expectations. When alone, people are not bound by society's opinions, peer pressure, or validation, allowing them to live authentically. Healing and inner peace. Solitude provides a space to process emotions, recover from past wounds, and cultivate a calm and peaceful mind. The strength to walk alone. True power lies in being comfortable with yourself. Those who master solitude develop an unshakable mindset, unaffected by external chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth about being alone is something that society often distorts. From a young age, we are conditioned to believe that being alone is something to be avoided, something unnatural. We are told that we need to be surrounded by people, that social interactions define our worth, and that solitude is a sign of loneliness, failure, or even weakness. But what if everything we've been taught about being alone is wrong? What if solitude is not a curse, but a blessing? What if being alone is not a sign of weakness, but the ultimate sign of strength? The reality is that solitude is one of the most powerful tools for self-discovery, growth, and success. It is in moments of solitude that people find clarity, purpose, and a deeper understanding of who they really are. When you are alone, there is no one to influence your thoughts, no external noise shaping your decisions. It is just you and your mind, and that can be one of the most liberating experiences in life. However, most people fear being alone. They fill every quiet moment with distractions, endless scrolling on their phones, constant conversations, background noise, because they are terrified of facing themselves. But why? Why do people fear solitude so much? The answer is simple. Because solitude forces them to confront their true selves. It strips away all external validation, leaving them alone with their own thoughts, their own insecurities, their own unanswered questions. And that kind of self-confrontation can be uncomfortable. But discomfort is necessary for growth. The most successful people in history understood this. They embraced solitude, not because they were antisocial, but because they recognized that solitude was the key to unlocking their full potential. Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, and countless others all spent long periods in isolation, not because they were lonely, but because they needed the space to think, to create, and to discover ideas that would change the world. Solitude gave them focus, and focus gave them power. Being alone does not mean you are lonely. Loneliness is a feeling of emptiness, a longing for companionship, a discomfort with one's own presence. But being alone is a choice. It is a decision to spend time with yourself, to cultivate your mind, to grow stronger mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. There is a vast difference between being lonely and being alone. A lonely person feels incomplete without others. A person who embraces solitude feels complete within themselves. Society often glorifies constant connection. We live in a world where people believe that the more friends they have, the more social interactions they engage in, the more they are loved and accepted, the happier they will be. But look around. Some of the most miserable people in the world are those who are constantly surrounded by others. They may have thousands of followers online, a packed social calendar, endless conversations, but deep down, they feel lost. Why? Because their sense of self is dependent on external validation. Take that validation away and they crumble. Now think about those who are comfortable being alone. These people are unshakable. They do not seek approval because they have already validated themselves. They do not fear rejection because they do not rely on others to define their worth. They are independent, confident, and mentally strong. They know who they are, and they do not need anyone else to tell them. That is real power. Being alone teaches you independence. If you always need someone else to feel complete, then you are not truly free. True freedom comes from knowing that no matter who stays, who leaves, who supports you, or who doubts you, you are enough. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you free yourself from a need for constant reassurance. You stop fearing solitude because you understand that solitude is where your greatest growth happens. Think about the moments when you have made the most important decisions in your life. Were they made in the middle of a noisy crowd, surrounded by opinions and distractions? Or were they made in silence, in deep thought, in moments of solitude? The truth is, our biggest realizations, our most creative ideas, and our most powerful breakthroughs happen when we are alone, because that is when we are most in tune with our inner voice, the voice that gets drowned out by the noise of the world. But embracing solitude is not easy. It requires a shift in mindset. It requires breaking free from the belief that being alone is a problem that needs to be fixed. It requires the courage to sit in silence and listen to yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. But once you master it, once you learn to walk alone without fear, you unlock a level of strength and self-awareness that most people will never experience. The truth about being alone is simple. It is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. It is not a sign of weakness, but a source of immense power. Those who fear solitude remain dependent on the world for their happiness. Those who master solitude become the ones who shape the world. Society has always viewed solitude with suspicion, almost as if it were a problem that needs to be fixed. From childhood, we are taught that being alone is something to be avoided at all costs. We are encouraged to socialize, to make as many friends as possible, to be surrounded by people, and to constantly engage in conversations. The moment someone chooses solitude over socializing, they are labeled as lonely and asocial, or even troubled. But why does society fear solitude so much? Why is being alone often seen as something negative rather than something powerful? The first reason is that solitude disrupts the norm. Human beings are social creatures, and for centuries, communities and societies have thrived on connection, collaboration, and shared experiences. People are conditioned to believe that constant interaction is a sign of happiness and success. The more people you have around you, the more valued and accepted you are. This is why those who choose to walk alone often make others uncomfortable. They do not fit into the common mold of constant connection, and anything that disrupts societal norms is often met with resistance. Another reason why society fears solitude is that it forces people to face themselves. When you are constantly surrounded by others, your attention is always directed outward. You are engaged in conversations, involved in activities, and distracted by external influences. But the moment you step into solitude, all those distractions fade away. You are left alone with your thoughts, your fears, your regrets, and your insecurities. For many people, this is a terrifying experience. They would rather fill every quiet moment with noise, scrolling through their phones, chatting with friends, keeping themselves busy, because silence makes them confront the truth about themselves. Society also fears solitude because it represents independence. From a young age, people are taught to rely on external validation for their self-worth. They are encouraged to seek approval from others, to measure their success based on how many people support them, and to feel good about themselves only when they are accepted by a group. But solitude breaks this cycle. It teaches people that they do not need constant validation to feel complete. Those who embrace solitude learn to rely on themselves for happiness, and this level of independence threatens a society that thrives on conformity. Think about it. People who are easily influenced by others are easier to control. If someone always needs external validation, they will go to great lengths to fit in. They will follow trends, change their opinions to match the majority, and even compromise their own values just to be accepted. But those who are comfortable being alone do not fall into this trap. They do not need approval to feel worthy. They do not fear rejection because they are not dependent on others for their happiness. This kind of self-sufficiency is rare, and society does not know how to handle it. Another reason society discourages solitude is that it leads to deep thinking. The greatest minds in history were people who spent significant amount of time in solitude: Einstein, Newton, Tesla, and countless others. They understood that in order to create, innovate, and discover, they needed to detach from the distractions of society. Solitude gave them the space to think deeply, to question existing beliefs, and to develop ideas that would change the world. But here's the problem. Deep thinking leads to awareness, and awareness leads to change. A society that wants people to follow the status quo does not encourage deep thinking. It encourages distraction, entertainment, and shallow conversations because these things prevent people from questioning the way things are. Social media is a perfect example of this. We live in an age where people are more connected than ever before, yet they feel more lost and empty than ever. The pressure to be constantly engaged, to post updates, to interact with others, and keep up with the online world has made solitude seem unnatural. But this need for constant connection has also created a generation that struggles with self-identity. People rely on likes, comments, and shares to validate their existence. If they do not receive attention, they feel invisible. If they are not surrounded by people, they feel unworthy. This is a dangerous cycle that society has created, one where a person's value is determined by external factors rather than by their own inner strength. But here's the truth. Solitude is not something to be feared. It is something to be embraced. The fear of being alone is not really a fear of solitude. It is a fear of self-confrontation. It is a fear of discovering who you truly are when all external distractions are removed. It is a fear of realizing that many of the things you relied on for happiness were never really necessary. But once you overcome this fear, once you learn to be comfortable in your own presence, you unlock a power that most people will never experience. Society will continue to push the idea that solitude is unnatural, but the strongest individuals in the world are those who have mastered it. They understand that true power does not come from being surrounded by people. It comes from being unshakable even when standing alone. They know that solitude is not loneliness. It is clarity. It is independence. It is strength. And those who embrace it will always be the ones who lead, while those who fear it will always be the ones who follow. In a world filled with distractions, the question of self-discovery often goes unanswered. Who are you when the noise fades, when there's no social media, no expectations, and no validation from others? Most people never find out because they are too busy reacting to the world instead of truly understanding themselves. From childhood, we are shaped by external influences, school, society, family, and friends, all telling us who we should be. We rarely pause to ask, is this truly what I want? The constant engagement with others leaves little room for self-reflection. As a result, many people live lives shaped by expectations rather than authentic desires. True self-discovery happens in solitude. When you step away from external noise, you begin to hear your own voice. You realize which beliefs are genuinely yours and which ones were imposed on you. You start to understand what truly brings you happiness, not what society says should make you happy. But this process can be uncomfortable. Without distractions, you are forced to confront your fears, insecurities, and unresolved emotions. That's why many people avoid solitude altogether. Yet, those who embrace solitude gain an unshakable sense of self. They stop living for validation, stop following paths that don't align with their purpose, and stop fearing being alone. When you know yourself deeply, you become independent, confident, and clear about your direction in life. So, who are you without distractions? If everything external were stripped away, what would remain? That answer is your true self, the foundation of a life lived with purpose and authenticity. Being alone is often misunderstood. Society has conditioned us to believe that solitude is something negative, something that should be avoided at all costs. We are constantly told that being surrounded by people, engaging in social activities, and always having someone to talk to is the key to happiness. But what if the opposite is true? What if being alone is not a weakness, but one of the greatest strengths a person can develop? What if solitude is the very thing that builds mental resilience, emotional stability, and an unbreakable mindset? The truth is, being alone forces you to rely on yourself, and that is where true mental strength begins. When you are constantly surrounded by people, their opinions, their energy, and their expectations influence your thoughts and decisions. You may not even realize it, but your beliefs, choices, and even your sense of identity are shaped by those around you. However, when you embrace solitude, you remove those external influences. You are left with only your own thoughts, and that can be one of the most powerful experiences a person can have. At first, being alone can feel uncomfortable. The silence can be unsettling, and the absence of distractions can make you feel lost. But this discomfort is where growth happens. When you no longer have others to depend on for entertainment, reassurance, or validation, you are forced to develop inner strength. You begin to trust yourself more. You learn how to comfort yourself in difficult times. You discover how to process your emotions without external input. And most importantly, you realize that you do not need anyone else to feel complete. Solitude teaches emotional self-sufficiency. Many people struggle with loneliness not because they're actually alone, but because they have never learned how to be at peace with their own presence. They seek validation from others to feel worthy, depend on relationships to feel secure, and constantly surround themselves with people to avoid facing their own emotions. But those who master solitude develop an entirely different level of emotional strength. They understand that their happiness is not dependent on external factors. They learn to sit with their thoughts, process their emotions, and come out stronger on the other side. Being alone also builds resilience. In life, challenges are inevitable. There will be moments when you feel lost, when people walk away, when things do not go as planned. Those who fear solitude often crumble in these moments because they have never learned how to stand on their own. But those who have spent time alone, who have learned to navigate life without constant external support, develop an unshakable mindset. They know that no matter what happens, they can rely on themselves to get through it. Solitude also enhances self-awareness. When you are always surrounded by people, your attention is directed outward. You are constantly reacting to conversations, engaging in activities, and processing external opinions. But when you are alone, you have the space to reflect deeply. You begin to understand your true desires, recognize your strengths and weaknesses, and gain clarity about your purpose. This kind of self-awareness is crucial for personal growth because it allows you to make decisions that are aligned with your true self rather than being influenced by societal expectations. Another powerful aspect of solitude is that it teaches patience and focus. In a world that is constantly moving, where people expect instant gratification and quick solutions, those who can sit in stillness and focus their minds gain a significant advantage. Many of the greatest thinkers, creators, and innovators in history spent long periods in solitude. They understood that deep thinking, creativity, and problem-solving require an undistracted mind. When you embrace solitude, you train your brain to focus, to think critically, and to develop new ideas without being influenced by the noise of the world. Moreover, being alone strengthens decision-making skills. When you always seek advice or approval from others, you become dependent on external input to make choices. This can make you uncertain, hesitant, and easily swayed. But when you spend time alone, you learn how to trust your own judgment. You develop confidence in your ability to make decisions without needing constant reassurance. This independence is a key characteristic of mentally strong individuals. Lastly, solitude fosters inner peace. When you learn to be comfortable alone, you no longer feel the need to chase after people, seek validation, or constantly stay busy to avoid discomfort. You realize that peace comes from within, not from external circumstances. This realization is incredibly powerful because it frees you from the anxiety and stress that comes from relying on the outside world for happiness. Being alone is not about isolation. It is about building the kind of mental strength that allows you to thrive regardless of who is around you. It is about developing emotional resilience, self-awareness, focus, and independence. Those who fear solitude remain dependent on the world for their sense of worth. But those who master solitude gain a level of strength that makes them unbreakable. The most successful people in the world have one thing in common. They understand the power of solitude. While society often glorifies constant networking, collaboration, and social engagement, those who achieve greatness know that true success requires periods of deep reflection, focused work, and inner clarity. Things that can only be found in solitude. Mastering solitude doesn't mean cutting off the world. It means developing the ability to think independently, make decisions with confidence, and create without distraction. Solitude allows successful individuals to develop a strong sense of self. When people are constantly surrounded by others, their thoughts, beliefs, and actions are influenced by external opinions and societal expectations. But those who embrace solitude learn to filter out the noise and connect with their own vision. They do not rely on validation from others to feel worthy or make decisions. Instead, they trust their instincts, build self-discipline, and align their actions with their true goals, rather than following trends or conforming to outside pressure. One of the most important benefits of solitude is that it enhances focus and productivity. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. Social media, emails, notifications, and constant conversations can pull people away from meaningful work. Successful people know that deep work, whether it's creating a business, writing a book, or innovating new ideas, requires uninterrupted time. Solitude creates the perfect environment for this level of concentration, allowing people to enter a state of flow where they can produce their best work without interruption. Beyond productivity, solitude also fosters creativity. Many of the greatest thinkers, writers, and inventors spent long hours alone, allowing their minds to explore new possibilities. When there are no external voices dictating what is possible, the mind is free to make connections, form original ideas, and innovate in ways that wouldn't happen in a noisy, distraction-filled environment. The ability to think creatively and solve problems in new ways is what sets successful people apart from the rest, and solitude plays a crucial role in this process. Ultimately, mastering solitude gives successful individuals an unshakable inner foundation. Loneliness is one of the most feared emotions in human existence. It is something people actively try to avoid, filling their lives with distractions, relationships, and endless social interactions just to escape it. Society has conditioned us to believe that being alone is something negative, something that signifies failure, rejection, or a lack of connection. But in reality, loneliness is not the enemy. It is simply a state of mind that can be understood, managed, and even transformed into a source of strength. Overcoming the fear of loneliness is not about avoiding solitude, but about learning how to embrace it without feeling lost or empty. The fear of loneliness often stems from an internal void, not external circumstances. Many people believe that being alone is what makes them feel lonely, but that is not entirely true. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of connection, both with others and with oneself. There are individuals who are constantly surrounded by people, yet still feel deeply alone, while others can be physically isolated yet feel completely at peace. This difference lies in one's ability to build a fulfilling relationship with oneself. If a person relies solely on external sources for validation, happiness, or a sense of worth, they will always feel a sense of emptiness when left alone. However, when someone learns to find joy, purpose, and contentment within themselves, solitude no longer feels like a burden. It becomes a space for self-growth and inner peace. One of the biggest obstacles in overcoming the fear of loneliness is the way the mind interprets it. The moment a person feels alone, their thoughts often spiral into negative directions. Why am I alone? Do people not like me? Well, I always feel this way. These thoughts create anxiety, sadness, and a deep sense of insecurity. However, when someone begins to shift their perspective, they realize that being alone is not necessarily a bad thing. Solitude can be an opportunity for self-reflection, self-discovery, and personal development. It is in these quiet moments that people truly get to know themselves, understand their deepest desires, and grow into stronger, more independent individuals. Another key to overcoming loneliness is learning how to enjoy one's own company. Many people fear being alone because they do not know what to do with themselves without external stimulation. They rely on others for entertainment, conversation, and even emotional support. But when a person learns to engage in activities they enjoy alone, whether it's reading, writing, creating art, exercising, or simply spending time in nature, they begin to realize that their own company is enough. They no longer feel the desperate need to constantly be around others to feel fulfilled. Instead, they start appreciating the peace and freedom that comes with solitude. Building a strong sense of self-worth is another crucial step in overcoming the fear of loneliness. Often, people seek relationships and social interactions not because they genuinely enjoy them, but because they fear what it means to be alone. They use others as a way to escape their own insecurities, avoiding their own thoughts and emotions. But true confidence comes from knowing that one's value is not determined by the presence of others. When a person understands their worth, they no longer feel the need to cling to relationships out of fear. They build meaningful connections based on genuine appreciation rather than a need for validation, and they become comfortable with the idea that being alone does not mean being unloved or unworthy. Loneliness can also be a powerful teacher. It forces people to confront their fears, their weaknesses, and the parts of themselves they may have been avoiding. It reveals what truly matters in life and pushes individuals to develop emotional resilience. Many of the world's most successful, creative, and insightful people have experienced profound loneliness at some point, but instead of letting it consume them, they used it as a tool for growth. They channeled their solitude into their work, their passions, and their personal development, ultimately emerging stronger than before. Overcoming the fear of loneliness does not mean never feeling alone again. It means learning to be comfortable with solitude, understanding that it is not a punishment but an opportunity. It means shifting the mindset from seeing loneliness as something to escape to seeing it as a space for self-growth and empowerment. Once a person realizes that they are whole on their own, they no longer fear being alone. Instead, they embrace it, knowing that solitude is not a weakness. It is a source of strength, clarity, and inner peace. The path to true success is often a lonely one. While the world emphasizes teamwork, companionship, and external validation, the reality is that those who achieve the highest levels of greatness often walk alone. Walking alone does not mean rejecting people or relationships. It means having the courage to pursue your dreams without waiting for approval, support, or companionship. It means trusting your vision even when no one else sees it, pushing forward even when you feel isolated, and standing firm in your beliefs when the world questions you. Those who dare to walk alone develop an unshakable inner strength that allows them to win alone, relying on nothing but their own determination and resilience. Most people fear solitude because they associate with weakness or failure. But in truth, walking alone forces a person to build a kind of discipline, focus, and independence that few possess. When there is no one to rely on, no one to push you forward, you learn to become self-sufficient. You take full responsibility for your growth, decisions, and actions. Without external distractions or unnecessary influences, you gain clarity about who you are, what you want, and what truly matters. Many of the world's greatest thinkers, leaders, and innovators walked their paths alone before the world recognized their greatness. They faced doubt, criticism, and loneliness, yet they kept moving forward because they understood that true success is built in silence, away from the crowd. Winning alone is not about isolating yourself from the world. It is about mastering the ability to succeed regardless of who is beside you. The strongest people do not wait for motivation from others, nor do they depend on constant encouragement. They understand that their journey is theirs alone, and if they truly want to achieve something extraordinary, they must be willing to take the necessary steps without hesitation. This mindset creates a level of resilience that makes a person unstoppable. When you learn to walk alone, you develop the power to overcome setbacks, adapt to challenges, and keep going when others would have given up. At the end of the journey, the rewards of walking alone become clear. You are no longer bound by the need for approval or companionship to move forward. You have built something on your own terms, with your own strength, and no one can take that away from you. True winners are not the ones who followed the crowd or waited for the perfect team. They are the ones who had the courage to walk alone, face their fears, and emerge victorious through sheer willpower and determination. Walking alone may be difficult, but it is the price of winning alone, and those who embrace it find a strength and success that few will ever know. Good luck on your journey, and thank you